welcome. I'm Tyler. Today we're going on a journey. We're going to do a toy problem from CodeWars, and you're going to be here for the whole thing. We're going to start to understand the task. We're going to whiteboard, or in this case I'm going to pseudocode the solution. So before we write any code, we're going to think through how to solve this. And then we'll write our solution. And then, optionally, if it happens, if I haven't made an error, we'll check for what the errors are, the failed test. Then, before we just start going in and trying random code, we're going to rethink the solution, continue the whiteboarding process, and once we come to a nice conclusion, we'll go back, fix the code, and repeat this as necessary until we find our solution. So, join me as we tackle this problem on CodeWars called parseInt. So let's read about it. So in this kata, we want to convert a string into an integer. The strings simply represent the numbers and words. So example, 1 as the word, the string becomes 1 the number, 20 the string becomes 20 the number, and so on and so forth. And you see here it's a little complicated, so I'm going to whiteboard, leave myself a little note because I'm going to full screen this later. Let's leave a little note here that input will be a string of a number, and the output will be the input string as its number version. Right? So that's what we're expecting here, right? We want to input a string and get that number version on the way out. Alright, so as we keep reading here, additional notes, we say the minimum number will be 0, the maximum number will be 1 million. These are inclusive, so meaning that is included in the possible solutions. So little notes here. This isn't so much a constraint or anything, but it's just good to know that the range is going to go from 0 to 1 million. So good to know, right? So we don't have to go up to the billions or anything, or even lots of the millions. In fact, this actually points out a slight edge case for me, is that we could see 1 million. We'll know exactly what that looks like. That's going to probably be typed as 1 million, and that should automatically give me this 1 million. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through. We see here that the word and is optional, so that's something to keep in mind too. And is optional, so in some cases present, others it's not. So yeah, that's good to know. I might not be able to rely on the word and to break up things. And then here we have all tested numbers are valid. You do not need to validate them, so that's good. So everything we get will be a number. We don't have to expect them to put a blorf in there, and we have to say it's null or something. So everything should be valid as we go through. All right, so let's get into this. So when I'm seeing this task here, I need to get these words. It's not providing me with any sort of object to have things. So one task I'm going to have that maybe happens before I get into the function is create an object with keys as the string of a number and values as the number, right? So I know I'm going to need some sort of case here to track a lot of that. So let's say I'll say even objects, maybe I'll use more than one, maybe one to get like the 1s or the 10s or something like that. So let's say I'm going to create those. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I'll create them once I need them. But now I'm in the actual number. So here, in the actual function. So here I'm like, okay, I need to approach this. I point out this one like 1 million scenario. It's going to give me 1 million. Probably the only time I'll use this word, 1 million. So part of me wants to tackle that edge case right away. So cool. I'm just going to do this to 1 million edge case. And all that is if 1 million, let's just return 1 million. So we don't have to worry about including this in these objects. We'll just take care of it as the one edge case that we're going to be running into here. Alright, cool. So we have that taken care of. Now we have to start breaking it down. So as the number is bigger, I probably want to detect if it's like going to be in the thousands, right? Because that would be 1,000. Obviously, this example here uses 1,000. So let's find an approach, right? So let's say detect if 1,000 is in the string, right? That'll tell me right away if it is, right? We know we'll be in the range of 1000 to 999999, so we can maybe work within that realm. Maybe develop some sort of a splitting technique here, where if you look here, it looks like 783, which is a 3-digit number, and then 919, which is like another 3-digit number, but they're split by this 1000. So my brain could be like, all right, cool. This tells me if I'm in this state, I could use a split of the string to maybe try to detect what's before and afterwards. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but let's say we'll split the string on this 1000, right? There's probably be a space before and afterwards, like we're seeing here. So I'll say, cool, we'll split it, because once we split it, we can tackle the thousands places. And like the hundreds places and less. So cool. So this is now giving me an idea, right? Because I'm gonna have to deal with that anyway, right? These 3-digit numbers to deal with, or even if it's just 2, right? All right, I need to find a way to handle those. So it would be cool if, like, when I say have to handle these things, I could even use some sort of like helper function I can just develop and call on when I need it. So if it's in the thousands, otherwise use this function just on the number you have, because I'll have to do it twice, right? These are 2 similar types of things I'll have to take care of to turn them into numbers. So maybe I could just create those numbers and then return the number as needed. So it gives me an idea of using like a helper of some kind, right? Else is that it's less than 1000, and that means I call the helper once. So helper called twice. I don't know what the helper is yet. That's okay. If I'm less than 1000, then 1000, then I'll use this helper called once, because then I won't have to worry about that separation happening. So far I'm kind of tackling different case scenarios, but now we're gonna get into how can this helper actually help us. So now this like objects up here, I know I don't even have to go into the thousands now. I have this strategy for dealing with it, but now I need to figure out what this helper is going to be. So it's going to be, let's give it a clever name, right? String to number, right? Cool. I'm parsing it. This is going to be a string to a number case. So what happens in this function is I need to now break it apart. I'm going to now expect, right? So this helper function, if I want to leave myself a few notes on it, I know I'm expecting the input to be a string between 0 and 999 inclusive, right? Because if I'm using the 1000 thing, I'm not really expecting 1000. I know to handle it otherwise. And the output should be a number up to a 3-digit number. Now how do I tackle this? Alright, cool. Now in my helper I can now detect maybe these hundreds, right? There are these ands I'll have to also deal with when that time comes. But also now I need to know, okay, there's 100, and typically when we're talking about hundreds, there's usually a single-digit word before it and then afterwards. So this can now come another scenario, right? Just like I detect if 1000 is in the string. In this function, I'm going to detect if 100 is in the string, right? Right, and I could do a similar thing, right? Detect if it's in there. I could split into 2 like parts, right? I know if I split, it'll be like a ones place number, and what could be a double-digit number as well. I'll have to detect what that's going to be. This thing will still have it be a string, so it'd be easy enough to detect like how to put them together. This will be your tens in ones place numbers. Cool. We split it. We can handle both of those, write the logic we need to for each of them, and combine them, right? So now handle the two strings and combine into 3-digit number, right? There could be this and going on here that we'll have to contend with the other side, but with the way it's split up, I'll get like a 900 and blah blah. There even be an and before this too. We'll have to deal with that as well. And I'm starting to think that maybe these ands will be a detriment, right? So I might need to find a way to get rid of it, right? This could have been 783,900 and so on forth, right? So these ands are going to pop up in this function, which I'm looking to avoid. Maybe I need to start coming up with like strategies just to get rid of them all together, right? If they could optionally be in there, I wanted to develop a solution that's going to get rid of it. So maybe the string that comes in, the first thing I might do is replace all ands if they're in there with just nothing, right? Just get rid of them. This might introduce some white space, but we can always use like a trim to get rid of the white space on the outside to give it more concise. So cool. I don't want to deal with it, right? If it's optional, let me find a strategy that works without it, and I can just like replace them all and not have to worry about it. Right, so I do that. The other else here is if it's not if there's no 100 there, right? Else, we know it's just going to be this tens and ones place, right? And we'll do our strategy here that we're probably going to do up here. All right, cool. So let's start breaking out what that strategy is going to be, right? I'm calling this helper. Let me start to figure out what does this handle mean, right? I want to handle it. So these two strings. I'll have one probably be called like the 100 string, right? Cool. What I want to do with that is just use object with ones place words to creates a single digit, right? Because that's what we're expecting. Since we know it's also in the hundreds, we could also right away is store the single digit as that number times 100, right? So as 100 times, you know. So like I know it's gonna be 100 thing. I want that. I'm expecting that. I want to return that up to a 3-digit number, and then the other thing could be I'll say 10 string, right? It might be a single digit, so we're at the right of strategy here. But now we need to start breaking down like these words we might find. We need to start throwing them together. So if I know if I'm dealing with like 24, there's this dash here that could throw things off, right? Over like 13, I have to think about those situations with this thing up here. But knowing this, I can maybe use this to my advantage, right? If I can maybe detect if there is one in there, and if so, I could split it up. I probably want to trim these things before I use them as well, because there could be all this empty space around it. So I can maybe the thing up here is make sure that this is being trimmed, so it can be more easily used with this. Here, I'll make sure it gets trimmed as well, but I might need to detect if it's going to be like a 21 or something like that, and so I can react to that and create the number I'm looking for. So detect a hyphen, and then use object to create the numbers and add together if necessary. Alright, so I'm starting to move this full screen, so I'm starting to like get my idea together. Again, this idea down here is like the same idea that I'm gonna be. Oop, I opened up my inspect on accident. Boop. Right, it's gonna be a similar strategy for this else statement. Wondering understand why it's out so much. I'm just gonna move back into this thing. Ooh. I am learning something about this code editor, which I do not like. And I move it back. Okay, good. All right. So cool. Add together if necessary. But cool, I can do a similar strategy down here. Detect if that's there. I may even just want to keep my code a little more dry. Maybe this down here is just something that happens, right? I just want to get the first part to get the 100 and then combine that with this down here because I'm already doing the same thing twice. So this is more of like if there's 100, get this thing and then move on forward and just do the second part no matter what with what's left. But anyway, so we're starting to get this idea, so let's create this object I'm wanting to use, right? I'm going to use const because I want it to be immutable, so it's just going to be number strings I can call on. And I'm going to use all caps here to really let, when I'm inside the function, know that something's outside the function I'm calling on. So let's go through a few, right? So if we have 0, we know we want that to be 0. So there we go. So now I've created this object, right? It has these keywords I'm going to use to turn into numbers. You'll see here that there's 1 through 9 to be used with those hundreds. 0 is going to be there in case there's a 0. I'll have to be very careful to not use it in certain case scenarios, but if it is 0, then I want to use 0. So that might be another edge case I'm realizing as I'm working on this. So right up here, right, have this. Maybe another edge case is the 0 edge case. Because most words don't end in 0. You're not saying 0, 100. When you say 20, you're not using the 0 part either. So it might be something to keep in mind, especially if we have just like a 300 and there's a 0 on the right side. So maybe think about that. We don't want to do 300, 0. So down here, when we're like replacing things, I need to also maybe have for these tens thing to detect if that's being used. But another thing to look for as well with this is this string empty, right? Because in that case you're not going to have a word being used. So I need to make sure if it is empty to not do anything, right? Skip this part. Because they're going to give me the word, right? If it's 300, the 100 will split. And then I'll have like a 3 and then like no word on the right side. So when that trim happens, hopefully it just returns an empty string. Help me know I need to skip this. Don't worry about finding the object. All right, cool. But I have my number strings. I'm going to close this for right now, but they're all in there. If I ever want to see it again, I can expand it. But just to kind of clean up the look of the code. All right, so now we're going to get in this, right? Let's write a few of these edge cases. So here we have our string, right? We know we want to, if string is strictly equal to 1 million, right? We're detecting this. Then I want to return that 1 million, right? This should take care of that case. Easy peasy. All right, cool. I have another edge case I want to work out as well. It's a 0 edge case because I don't know if that's going to come up as naturally. Actually, that should be detected, right? When we if we were to throw 0 into this helper, you know, it should just detect it. So I won't worry about that edge case. It should be able to handle 0 because it'll be a single-digit thing. With no 100, so it should know what to do. All right, so now let's keep moving forward. So now we have to detect if the string is thousands in the strings. We know how big it is. So now another detection here is if string dot includes, right? So now this is me hoping that I am using this includes correctly, right? I'm thinking that returns true. Another thing always great to do during these toy problems is always to like look up, right? Can includes be used on a string? I see it here, it can be. I can look at even the documentation and be like, yes, I expect it to return a true or false, which is great for this if statement. I can even do an optional position, but I just want to know if it's in there. That's my main goal. So if it includes that 1,000, I know that I'm gonna start to do some work here. So I'm gonna move this in, boop, boop. this can be moved up as well. If it's in there, we have to handle these two things separately. Otherwise, call it once, right? And that's gonna be used with this helper, right? If it's less than 1,000, I'll have something down here. I'm gonna come back to that. But split the string. I can definitely do this. So I'll say I'll call this the split string, or I'll say split thousand's a good name. And I'm going to string dot split this into two pieces on either side of this 1,000 word. And then I have these two words, right? So I'll need to call the helper on each place of it. So this will definitely be hundreds places and thousands places. So looking at this, I'm leaving a note that should be at the 0 index. The hundreds and less places will be at the first index. And else you'll call it once. I need to have this helper, so I'm not going to worry about calling it yet. Or I could call it because I know what name I'm going to use, right? So handle both of these. I'll have I'll be able to return here string to number with the split 1,000 for its first index, probably times 1,000 to get the right number, plus the string to number of the split 1,000 at the first index. So they add together to give me what I need. So yeah, so we are using split 1,000 0. It should be the thousands place one. It should be the left side of 1,000. And then we have our string to number with the split 1,000 on 1. Don't mind the little jump cut there with my headphones. We're taking off. I had to take a quick call. But cool, so we can jump around between these two now. So it will make this. So you'll see here, this is white. It's not even defined yet, so I'll even just define it really quick here. So function of string to number, just so I have something here it can reference. Here when it gets called later, as long as I spelled that right. Alright. So cool, we have function string to number, which will take in a string of some kind. So this will be, I'll just call it num string. So it's a little bit different than this input here. So now I'm using for different things. So we have our function string to number being used. It should be hoisted to the top to be used there. And then we'll work through our helper function now. So here, I don't want to deal with these ands. So my first thing I'm going to do is replace them all. So again, if you want to use your MDN docs, you can always look up replace all, right? This works on strings. You can learn about, okay, cool. Replace all with this. It'll require 2 arguments. Use regex, but that's great. I want to replace them all. So I'm going to take our thing and let's look here, see if it is like more like destructive, right? It returns a new string, so that's something to know, right? We have to store that somewhere. So we'll make a another string. Let's call it let's call it string, and we'll just take that num string and we're going to replace all of the ands with nothing. So in this case, they're all replaced. I don't have to deal with and, so I'm not thinking about that when I'm moving forward. So now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna detect if 100 is in the string. So the string now I just got rid of all the ands with. I'm gonna check to see if it includes 100, and if so, I'll take care of that split, and then otherwise I will be just working without the split thing. So we're going to split this into a tens and ones place. So we'll take the string split on 100, right? I'm going to use those spaces too. And then we'll handle these 2 different strings that we just now created in this array, right? Which I forgot to save as something. So I'm going to say here const split 100, right? We know this is an array. So now going through, we're going to deal with this first one here. Define our word. I'm going to store it as like a single, so 100 place. So I can maybe do the same strategy I had up here, but I'm about to use this object to put things together. But I also know that if the second string is empty, I don't want to use it. So maybe I do store these things into 2 places. So I'll do a cont hundreds, which will be split 100 dot 0, and trim any of the excess like white space. And then I'll also do the same thing with this like tens string as well. I guess I could also use like 100 string. I think I just saw there. I used that here for that name convention. And then this 10 string as well. So const tens string, which will be split 100 from that split 1, and trim it down as well. So again, all that white space goes away. And now we'll start to like work out this logic. So I will also be able to now start to use this like word and store it properly. So here I'm going to const my hundreds. I'm going to store it here, where it's going to be the object I called earlier, number strings, right? It's just going to be number strings, but with our hundreds string here. So in this case, I'll do times 100, so I know it's 100. So what this does, it takes in the string I have now detected, right? It's gonna find this like ones place along here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and make sure it saves it as 100, 200 as the number. So cool, and I'm gonna store it in hundreds, so I can combine that later. The 10 string, I'm gonna do something similar, but in this case here, I'm going to only use it if it's not empty. So one thing here is this 10 string here, I need to do this like if it's empty, I don't want to actually do this, right? I don't have anything in the object. It's going to come back undefined. I'm not going to find the proper key that I'm looking for to create this number. So I will say here I'm going to create a variable called tens, right? That will get something if it's gonna have anything. I'll even maybe say it's essentially a 0. So when I add it later, it doesn't do anything on accident. But if my 10 string is not empty, so 10 string is not equal to an empty string, then I'm going to do this next part where I'm going to add the things together using this object. So here I need to detect also if there is a hyphen. I could always use split, and if it's not there, I'll return like an array with one thing or return array with 2, but I should probably just detect if it is there. So if 10 string dot includes a hyphen, right? If I know that's the case, then I'm going to split, add those together, and make my new number. So if it does include it, I will take my 10 string, I'll make my our tens string split here, where I'll take my 10 string, I'll split it on this little merit here, so now I know I'm getting each of the numbers from there. But then my tens, that number will be equal to, right, I'm going to add these numbers together. It's going to be my number strings with the left side of my 10 string split plus the number strings of the second part of the 10 string split. Right, those two numbers together should give me that tens, like the 21 or something, right? This should be like 21, 21 together. And I'm reassigning tens if this is the case. And then if there is no hyphen, then that reassignment's a little easier here. It'll just be whatever that number is, right? It could be just 7, it could be 20, any of those things. So just number strings will just be the 10 string, whatever it is. You don't have to worry about the split. Alright, cool. So this gives me my 10s here, which should now be 21. Looking at this, that should be like 200, so 221. And so forth. Here we have to do our else statement as well, for if there's just 10s and 1s, right? We just went over a strategy for this. But we can go through that one more time, right? So this num string coming in, right? We took care of the 100 thing, the string, because right, I just called it string. I just already got rid of the ands. But now we want to put this into the tens word, right? We already have a strategy right here that can work, right? That string. So first off, if this num string, again, if it's not in the hundreds already, it's not going to be empty. So we don't have to worry about this whole like not empty thing. We just want to check out, okay, does this string include a hyphen, right? Because we have a strategy for that. Because if it does, then I want to split it. So const string split to be string dot split at the hyphen. But it'll be easy enough now just to return what we need, right? We don't need to store it in tens. We can just return what we need. Down here for this if here, I guess we want to also, before we leave this, right, we have our hundreds and then our tens, right? We want to return hundreds plus tens, so we don't forget that we want to make sure we're returning that number we promised. And down here, we're just going to return with the string split string split. Also realizing here as well that there could be some trimming we have to do as well. So whenever I do this, I'll also do a little, I guess I should definitely do a trim on this as well, because it could be splitting. So anyway, so string split here, the first number, trim it down, and I just remembered that I need to use my number strings on it. So number strings with this word plus the other number as well. So number strings with our string split for the second word in it. Just return that together should give me the 2-digit number I'm looking for. And then otherwise, if there is no split that needs to happen, you just return the number string. I just realized there's no G there. That could lead to an issue. Number strings, right? That's what I called it. Yeah. Number strings with just the string itself, right? I don't need to do anything else. There's no hyphen. So I can just return whatever number I get back from that. So now doing all of this, right? I still want to detect that. I'm gonna leave that note here. I'm returning it. Else all of this stuff, blah blah blah. We have our now helper function ready to go. We're calling it up here to get our 1,000 and so forth. And then now if it's otherwise, right, I still need to call that. So I need to return the string to number of the string itself, right? I don't need to do anything to it. Nothing has to be split. I can just use it. And I shouldn't have to worry about any sort of trimming there. So seeing all this looks really great so far. I can see where things are going. Yeah, get rid of all the ands. If there's 100, split it up into your hundreds and your tens to then add together and return when you're done. Yeah, the tens was, if this was empty, you skip this part, right? Yeah, so this right here, I already set it equal to 0. So if there is no, like, if it is empty, I'm just adding 0 to wherever the hundreds place is. I don't have to worry about it. But if there is something there, it's going to give me like 227 and make the word. Else, it's not 100. I'm just looking for the hyphen. If it's there, I'll split it and add them together. And if it's not there, I just return the number I get from my object I made up here. So knowing all of this, let's go through. And now we like have a pretty strong case for something that's going to work. We can test to see if it just worked with their earlier test. That's working. That's fantastic. Love to see it. Let's do a genuine attempt. This goes through their whole suite of many tests. Let's see if anything pops up that we missed. We did miss something. So here it says cannot read properties of undefined reading trim. So it means when I'm using trim down here, there's somewhere where it is empty. So this little split here maybe led to something, but I'm using trim here. It says it's happening in my code for my solution. It says this is test.js. I don't know if that's what this file is. I'll need to figure that out. But it's in string to number, right? It's happening in here. Something's trying to trim something that's just not there. It could be this tens place here, right? This could be our culprit, right? If it did get split, right? If there was nothing there, I'm trying to trim it already. So that could be exactly where this is happening, right? I'm trimming maybe too soon. Maybe this doesn't even have anything to trim. It could be empty. Cool. So now I have to figure out like why is that happen? So why this is happening? So I need to see. All right. So if I see the word, do I see the test at all? Not necessarily, so that's not the best sign there. So let's see, let's go through this trim, right? Because trim only works on, let's look up here on strings, it seems. Let me see if it worked on anything else. But yeah, I need a string, right? Trim. Cool. Because yeah, the error was can't read properties undefined reading trim. So something is undefined. So maybe even with this split that's happening here, does it include 100? I split it and somehow it didn't have anything as a second word. So I need to figure out why that is. Could it be that I'm splitting with these gaps here? I don't know. Could be thrown in a certain way. Here, so maybe I need to do that and then trim it down to make sure that the split happens properly. Is it split 100? First and second? Am I spelling things right, you know? Because I am expecting that to be a string, so why wouldn't it be a string? I could also, even before I do any of this, right? Let's say I do this, this trim happens here, I'm going to do that, but also I want to know what is happening with that split 100 as well. I need to get a little bit of intel to make sure that whatever's going on, I'm figuring out like why it's just not giving me what I'm looking for. So if I do a little log of the 100 there, you'll see here properties undefined reading replace all. Okay, we got a little further, but you'll see here that sometimes when it splits, it's an empty string because that's probably 100 when it does this. Oh, you'll see here, right? If it ends in 100, maybe that's why that was happening. So now, yeah, I see now where that could go wrong, right? If I somehow use that space, it would never detect it at all. 1,000, right? It would need the 1,000 in there. I would definitely expect things inside, but with 100, maybe I'm not expecting those spaces. So that's a good lesson to learn here. I can see that happen. That's 299, 736. The and could be there, or you got rid of them. I can see here why that trim needs to be there. But my new error I'm getting here, it's a string to number, is whenever it's trying to read replace all. So here, in this replace all statement happening here, something is undefined coming in. So this num string was undefined apparently. So that implies that up here, I'm seeing some things that are undefined, which could be the second word, right? You have this 1,000, there might not be anything that follows it. So I'm running into an issue of this right here is leading to an error that I'm not expecting, right? So I've semi-solved the hundreds issue just by getting rid of the spaces, but here is an issue. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, if I'm already going to be trimming later all this stuff, maybe I don't need to include this. Maybe I had the same issue as before, where I was doing that blank thing and then it was not actually splitting it up on the 1,000 merit correctly, because maybe it was just 2,000 and there was nothing on the right side to begin with. It was already an empty string. So maybe that's also something I need to detect as well here, is this num string I could be accidentally passing in an empty string, because that's when it splits, it should be nothing. So maybe I need to, at this stage here, have an edge case that comes up, right? This is just one little edge case that happens where the input string is empty, right? If that's the case, I just want to return, right? So edge case, num string is empty. Awesome. So if num string is an empty string, then I just want to return that 0. I don't want to keep going and try to replace if it's not there at all, or for some reason I'm passing in undefined. I supposed to make sure I don't actually run into something I didn't expect. So that seems to be a good test there. I think that's what's going on. That split 1000. I might even do a little console log, make sure. But I think I might have detected what was going on, right? That split would happen, but it wasn't actually detecting it correctly. And I was doing the split 1000 thing here, and it was only ever having one thing. So let's do a little attempt here. Cool, expected non to equal 2000. So now we're getting into things that are being returned are not a number. So that's not what I expected. So that's not great. When is this happening? I don't know. So we have to figure that out. So we'll have to figure out why those things are being returned. So number strings, right? This means that whenever I'm using this thing on my number strings up top, right, it's not detecting the correct key here. So something's not being detected. For example, 2000, right? It's giving me 2 and 1000 for this one. So I'm assuming that word would be like 2000. So if I were to go through my problem, right, 2000, it's not this, it skips. Does it include 1000? Yes, it does. Can I split it? I will split it. It'll be 2 with an empty 0. All right, there we go. So this thing, right, it's a 2 with an empty space that follows the string, right? If I'm really breaking down the 2000s, right, I'll put it in my code right here. What's happening here with the split is when it gets split, it's doing 2 blank and then nothing because there's nothing that followed it, right? So I'm passing in this empty string here. This one gets numbered the string with the 2 and this empty space, right? And it's returning these numbers, so I need to make sure I check. So I'm passing in this 2. So when I check out my string to number, I get 2 with a space. Replace all ands, there are none. It does not include 100, so it's just going to be going straight into this. Does it include that? It doesn't. So it just knows number string with string. So there we go, right here. This one it happens for as well. I'm seeing that's probably why it's happening. When it uses this space right here, it's doing it with the notion that it's looking for the key, like 2, which doesn't exist. Up top, when I look at it, there is no space after this 2. So what needs to happen, which I was very considerate elsewhere, but a little hasty, is I forgot to trim up this thing to make it be that 2. So now knowing this, I'm going to go back. I'm going to remove that pseudocode I had just to kind of visualize what was going on. I'm going to attempt. And voila, we have a passing test. So there we go. I'm going to pull up my code, leave it on the screen for a little bit, reflect on some things that happened. Another fun take could be to optimize, but we'll see here. Let's go back through it again, because this was great, right? We passed all their tests, even their random tests. We detected for 1,000,000, right? So we don't have to include 1,000,000 tests later, because that's as high as it goes. See if it includes 1,000, split it up, and if it does, pass them in. We realize this could leave some empty space, but that's okay. It could also be an empty string with the ones place, but we take care of that in our function. And if it's less than 1,000, just put that string in, right? You don't need to worry about the 1,000. Now the string comes in here, right? And if it is empty, just return a 0, right? We're not expecting a 0, especially if it's like that ones place for the thousands number. Get rid of all the ands, right? We developed all of our logic to not include that number. We want to get rid of it because we're like focusing in on these certain key number terms. See if it includes 100, split it up, right? So we have that 127. We can separate them, deal with it. Make sure we're trimming, right? We learned our lesson here, right? With a later one. I got the 100, I multiplied by 100, so I can just add it later and return it. Now you'll see down here. And then for the 10s, if it is empty, if it isn't empty, then do something. Otherwise, if it is an empty string, again, we learned, like, I just want that to be 0 anyway, right? Add that 0 onto the hundreds. Then you go through it, detect the hyphens. We can get our 20 and 4 if need be. If not, just run it through your the number strings, get the number, return the addition. Now, if it's not, doesn't include 100, means we have a number less than 100. Then we'll detect that same hyphen, make sure we trim through, and return that number. Now, all comes back to this to create those numbers. So this could be a 3-digit number, thousands, plus that 3-digit number here, and just return that. So it's really this stage right here is what we're seeing as we leave the function, right? The helper's helping us out, but it's usually these stages that actually show results to our user. But anyway, that was parseInt with CodeWars. Now, obviously, that could definitely be optimized. In fact, that could be a fun future video for me to do, to go through, maybe find optimal ways to go through. I definitely have lots of variables to storing things, but when you're doing these toy problems, it's all about that iterative thinking of getting to your solution, and that important step before you write any code is doing that whiteboarding to make sure you're thinking through your whole idea before you start, so you're not backtracking or forgetting what you set up in the first place. As you saw, it helped me debug my problem at the end. Whenever I was like getting these unexpected errors I didn't expect, I did know what I wanted to happen because I worked through that ahead of time. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I'm gonna try to do more of these toy problems. If you have any comments about how it could have been written better, leave them down there. If you enjoyed certain parts, leave me a comment. If you have any feedback, please let me know. But anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.